Tiffany Trump breaks silence, and the internet isn't ready for years. She stayed out of the chaos. No scandals, no explosive interviews. Just quiet luxury and perfectly curated distance from the Trump spotlight. But now that silence just cracked wide open, fresh off a sudden divorce. Tiffany's world is unraveling in headlines. Rumors of a troubled marriage, secret moves behind the scenes, and one very strange real estate deal that's got everyone talking. So what really happened behind closed doors? Before we dig into the fallout, let's rewind and meet the most private and maybe most misunderstood Trump of them all. Tiffany Trump, the outsider in the empire. Here's a name lighting up your Tiffany Trump newsfeed lately, and not for the reasons you'd expect. Tiffany Trump has always been the wild card of the Trump dynasty, not because she stirred up scandals or stole headlines, but because she remained the one we knew the least about while her siblings embraced the spotlight. Tiffany hovered on the edge, never fully and never completely out. And maybe that quiet mystery is what made her so captivating. Born in 1993 to Donald Trump and his second wife. Actress Marla Maples Tiffany was raised far from the gold-plated world of Trump Tower, while Ivanka Don Jr. and Eric soaked in the Manhattan high life and were groomed under the Trump brand from day one. Tiffany's childhood looked very different. She grew up in sunny California, with Marla determined to give her something resembling a normal upbringing. Well, as normal as you can get when your dad is a billionaire. Real estate mogul. Tiffany didn't inherit the same front row seat in the Trump organization as her older siblings. Her relationship with her father was distant by most accounts. She spent most of her early years with her mother, only making the occasional appearance at Trump Tower or a family function. But when she did show up, she stood out. Her vibe was softer, more artistic worlds away from her siblings who were already walking and talking, like mini CEOs in designer suits in her teens. There was a brief moment when Tiffany seemed ready to step into the spotlight, on her own terms. She even dropped a pop single in 2011, called Like a Bird, let's just say. It didn't exactly make Billboard nervous, but it did show that Tiffany wanted to carve out an identity separate from the Trump machine. That dream didn't last long. Soon after she pivoted to something more traditional college, she enrolled at the University of Pennsylvania, following in the footsteps of her father and Ivanka. But her time there, it wasn't about building a future in politics or real estate. Tiffany studied sociology and law, living more like a regular student, at least as much as someone with the last name Trump can. She wasn't chasing headlines, but ironically with Tiffany Trump news, now exploding across social media, it looks like the quiet one might just be the most interesting. Trump of all, a love story, straight out of high society. Tiffany Trump has always played it differently. Never fully inside the glitzy Trump machine, never fully outside it either. For years, she stayed low-key, almost like a well-kept family secret. But then came Michael Boulos, and suddenly, Tiffany wasn't just the quiet Trump. She was engaged to a billionaire heir stepping into a world even more rarefied than the one she was born into. So, who exactly is Michael Boulos? And how did this ultra-elite romance even begin? Here's the twist. Michael Boulos didn't come from Wall Street, the political swamp, or reality TV. Nope. He came from serious generational wealth, the kind that rarely makes headlines but owns half the room. Born in Houston in 1997, but raised in Lagos, Nigeria. Michael is the son of Lebanese business titans. His family built an empire through Boulos Enterprises and Sokoa, Nigeria. Huge companies dealing in motorcycles, construction equipment, and power. This wasn't showbiz money. This was real, global behind-the-curtain money. And despite all that wealth, Michael wasn't your cliché rich kid spraying champagne on yachts for Instagram. He was the opposite, educated, composed, and deeply ambitious. In fact, the contrast between him and Tiffany's world couldn't be sharper. While the Trump orbit thrives on attention and brand power, the Boulos family prefers power. In silence, their wealth moves under the radar. And that ironically made them even more powerful. So how did this quiet billionaire from Nigeria end up dating a Trump? Well, buckle up. That's where things start getting seriously interesting. A chance encounter in the world's playground, if there's ever been a moron brand. Way for a Trump romance to begin, this is it. Tiffany met Michael Boulos at a party in Mykonos, Greece. Yes, that Mykonos, the ultimate billionaire playground, where super yachts outnumber taxis, and champagne is practically hydration. It was summer 2018, and Tiffany, fresh out of law school, fabulously single and living her best luxury life, was on vacation. She wasn't splashed across tabloids like her siblings, but make no mistake, she had VIP access to the world's most exclusive circles. Enter Michael Boulos. The specifics of their first meeting are wrapped in mystery, but insiders say the chemistry was instant. They were introduced through mutual friends in the international high society set, because of course in these circles everyone knows everyone. But unlike the flashy fast-burn romances her family is known for, Tiffany and Michael kept things low. Kino over the top, PDA. No dramatic headlines. Just two ridiculously wealthy young elites, quietly getting to know each other. What set Michael apart from Tiffany's past? Fling's depth. Worldliness. He wasn't just another Manhattan trust fund regular. He grew up across continents, immersed in cultures far removed from the Trump media circus, and he brought with him a global Rolodex of serious connections for Tiffany. Always a bit of an outsider in her own family. His world must have felt like both a fresh escape and a serious level up. If you enjoyed this video, drop a 1 in the comments, and if not, let me know with a 0. I appreciate your feedback from +1 to power couple. By fall 2018, Michael Boulos wasn't just a summer fling. He was already being ushered into the Trump inner circle pause. And think about that. Tiffany, the sibling who'd always been on the family fringe, was now the one introducing her man to the Trump dynasty. And not just any boyfriend, but a billionaire heir with business ties stretching across continents. It was bold, unexpected, and impossible to ignore. Michael slipped into Tiffany's world like he belonged there. He popped up at major Trump events, shook hands with political power players, and yes, met the Donald himself. And surprisingly, Donald Trump, known for having very strong opinions on who qualifies as Trump. Worthy didn't seem to mind. Maybe it was the money. Maybe it was the global reach. Or maybe it was the fact that Michael was the anti-Jared Kushner, in all the right ways. Whatever the reason, Michael had earned himself a seat at the table. And with him by her side, Tiffany began to rise. She appeared more frequently at White House. Functions stood with her father at rallies, and even dabbled in politics more than she ever had before. It was like Michael unlocked something in her. A new confidence, a sense of place in a family where she'd always felt like a background character by early 20s-21. Engagement rumors were everywhere. Tiffany, normally private about her love life, had clearly found something serious, and Michael wasn't shy about wanting to lock it down on January 19th, 2020, the 21st. Donald Trump's final day in office, Tiffany made it official with an Instagram post. She was engaged. The timing perfectly symbolic, one chaotic chapter was closing. and she was stepping into something far more polished, far more powerful, Michael proposed. With a 12-carat diamond ring, estimated at over $1 million. Because in their world, restraint is never the goal. But behind the glamour whispers began, was this true love? Or a strategic alliance between two ultra-wealthy dynasties? Was Tiffany finally making her own power play in a family built on them? Whatever the truth, one thing was clear: what started as a sun-soaked fling in Mykonos had evolved into a royal-level wedding in the making at Mar-a-Lago, the lavish wedding when Tiffany Trump walked down the aisle at Mar-a-Lago. This wasn't just a wedding, it was a spectacle. A full-blown Trump production, wrapped in luxury, dripping in legacy, and laced with just the right amount of political power play. Because let's face it, when a former president's daughter ties the knot, it's not just personal, it's historic. On November 12th, 2022, Tiffany and Michael Boulos made it official at the family's legendary Palm Beach estate. Intimate is a relative term when your last name is Trump. The guest list was packed with political insiders, billionaires, foreign dignitaries, and society's finest, and the venue Mar-a-Lago was transformed into something out of a royal fantasy. Think sweeping waterfront views, towering palms, pastel blooms in every corner, golden detailing and chandeliers that practically whispered old money meets new headlines. Tiffany's gown matched the occasion, a custom Alisab masterpiece with sheer sleeves, intricate beading, and a train fit for a queen. An intentional nod to Michael's Lebanese roots. It was timeless yet modern regal, but unmistakably Tiffany graceful, poised, and not lost in the Trump name. And then came the family moment. Donald Trump himself walked Tiffany down the aisle. One of those rare, unfiltered glimpses of the man behind the headlines. Marla Maples. Tiffany's mother took on a hands-on role, in planning adding warmth to the Granger Ivanka. Eric and Don Jr. stood front and center, polished to perfection, giving the cameras that unified family image. But this wasn't just about America's most headline-prone family. It was a cross-continental affair. Michael Boulos, heir to a Nigerian-Lebanese business empire, brought serious international clout. The guest list reflected that a blend of U.S. political elite and global moguls, making it more than a marriage. It was a merger. The celebration was lavish, yes, but also deeply symbolic. East meets West. Business meets legacy. Trump meets discretion. And yet, for all the opulence, there was something undeniably personal about it. No campaign banners, no political stagecraft, just Tiffany and Michael, stepping into their next chapter with $1 million ring and Mar-a-Lago as their fairy tale backdrop. But behind the glitz and flawless photos, something started to crack the smiles, the silence, the rumors. So, what really went wrong? The pressure of a high-profile marriage. Officially, Tiffany Trump and Michael Boulos are still together. No breakup posts, no public statements, no tabloid exclusives. But let's not kid ourselves. The rumor mill is working overtime. Whispers about their relationship status are gaining momentum, and while there's no smoking gun, the silence alone has people asking if they were to split, what would have pushed them there. Tiffany has never been as front and center as her father or siblings, but her last name guarantees a lifetime of scrutiny. Being a Trump isn't just a family identity. It's a brand, a headline, a pressure cooker. And Michael, he's no stranger to expectations. Either coming from a powerful Lebanese-Nigerian business dynasty, he's lived his life with a different kind of weight. One built on wealth, legacy, and global business. Ties marrying into either of these families isn't just a love story. It's a strategic merger with round-the-clock, media pressure, and generational baggage. Keeping up appearances in a relationship like that as a full-time job, add in the expectations from two vastly different family empires. The unrelenting gaze of the public and the constant need to look like Chicago's goals. And even the strongest bond could buckle. And then there's the cultural angle. Michael was raised across continents, shaped by Middle Eastern values and West African business culture. Tiffany, on the other hand, was raised in American high society with a dash of Hollywood from her mom's side. Yes, they both come from privilege, but very different versions of it that can be exciting. But it also opens the door to major disconnects. Family roles, tradition, career priorities. It all adds up, plus geography matters. Michael's life is global. He has business interests in Nigeria and beyond, often requiring him to travel. Tiffany has been based mostly in the US since finishing law school. Long distance isn't new to them. They started that way, but sustaining a marriage with two people in different time zones and wildly different rhythms, that's a challenge. Even the best FaceTime plan can't fix when reality hits. Marriage isn't like dating in Mykonos. It's not champagne, toasts and gala invites. It schedules compromises and figuring out whose turn it is to take the red eye. And for Tiffany Trump and Michael Boulos, living in different countries, for long stretches of time, that's more than inconvenient. It's a lifestyle strain that no amount of wealth can smooth over. And then there's the family factor. Both come from dynasties with serious influence and expectations. The Trump family doesn't exactly do hands-off parenting, especially when it comes to relationships that may affect the brand. Meanwhile, the Boulos empire, spanning continents and industries, has its own legacy to protect. When you combine two powerful families with strong opinions, conflicting priorities and generational pride, tensions can creep in. Fast could behind the scenes. Influence or business friction be slowly pulling at the seams of their union. Let's not forget that fairy tale wedding at Mar-a-Lago. Sure, it looked like a modern royal event. Ailey soba gown, pastel florals, global guest list. But marriage doesn't end at the aisle. Once the glitz faded and the Instagram like settled, real life began, and in that quiet away from the cameras, maybe the cracks started to show. Even the most glamorous couples face challenges. Once the spotlight dims, could they have underestimated how hard everyday love really is? Of course, this is all just speculation. There's no official split, no statement, no confirmation. But if Tiffany and Michael ever chose to part ways, these could be the very real reasons why things unraveled. And as if the pressures of marriage weren't enough, there's another layer to this story. Tiffany's own complicated relationship with her father. So what's really going on between Tiffany and Donald Trump? I'd love to know what you want to see next. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for the latest videos. A complicated father-daughter bond, while Ivanka, Eric, and Donald Jr. were raised within the golden glow of Trump Tower, shaped by boardrooms, campaign trails, and constant proximity to their father. Tiffany Trump's story has always read differently, as the only child from Donald Trump's marriage to Marla Maples. Tiffany grew up primarily in California, oceans away from the pressure spectacle and scrutiny that came with being a full-time Trump. And while she always carried the name, she didn't always carry the same closeness. Tiffany Trump has long been painted as the outsider in the family dynamic. And now, as Tiffany Trump breaks silence about her private life, many are re-examining the cracks in her relationship with the former president. Unlike her siblings who leaned into the Trump brand and took up front-row seats in the family business and politics, Tiffany often stood on the sidelines. Sources have whispered for years about a distant bond between her and her father. Months would pass without a word, and her absence from key family moments rarely went unnoticed. Being on the periphery of a legacy, obsessed family isn't easy, and Tiffany's own words hint at the emotional distance. I don't know what it's like to have a typical father figure. He's not the dad who's going to take me to the beach and go swimming. But he's such a motivational person. It's a quote that's both telling and heartbreaking, an acknowledgement of admiration layered with the quiet ache of absence. The divide hasn't just been emotional or geographical. Ideologically, Tiffany has at times veered from the Trump playbook, while the family is firmly rooted in conservative values and political messaging. Tiffany's actions, and even the company she keeps, have occasionally sparked whispers of dissonance. Her attendance at events outside the family's traditional orbit has drawn attention, raising speculation about quiet but significant differences in worldview. And then there's the subtle but symbolically loaded chatter. Tiffany possibly stepping away from Trump Organization properties on the surface. It's just real estate. But in a family where every move is layered with meaning, it could signal something deeper. A quiet repositioning of identity. Now as Tiffany Trump breaks silence. Many are wondering, is this just about stepping into her own? Or is it the start of a definitive break from a legacy she never fully fit into the exit strategy? Let's not pretend the Trump empire is still the gold-plated juggernaut it once was, since Donald Trump left the White House. In 2021, his businesses have been caught in a swirl of legal drama, financial scrutiny, and a public image that's no longer quite so polished for Tiffany Trump, who's always danced on the edge of the family legacy. This shifting landscape may have opened the perfect door to quietly slip out. And the symbolism chef's kiss, in a move almost too on the nose, to ignore luxury jeweler Tiffany & Company, vacated a Trump-owned property in New York City since 2018. The iconic brand had been leasing space at 6 East 57, the street prime Manhattan real estate, under the Trump Organization's control while its flagship underwent renovations. But now they're out that sparkling blue box brand is gone from Trump territory. And while it may be purely business, it felt like a metaphor come to life. This wasn't just a commercial lease ending. It mirrored something bigger. The quiet unraveling of the Trump brand's grip on prestige and power. High-end tenants pulling out real estate value, dipping reputation, shifting, and in the middle of it all, Tiffany Trump, the family's most elusive member, seems to be making some shifts of her own. She's always been unpredictable, never fully in, never fully out. But as Tiffany Trump breaks silence, questions swirl. Is this the moment she finally makes a clean break? If the rumors of a split with Michael Boulos are true, and if she's stepping back from the Trump business universe, then maybe she's ready to drop the expectations, drop the legacy, and step fully into her own story, a baby on the way. Just when the tabloids were gearing up for a Trump-Boulos breakup saga, boom, Tiffany Trump breaks silence once again. This time not with words, but with something far more headline. Grabbing a baby bump that's right after months of rumors, blurry paparazzi photos, and whispers of a split. Tiffany has re-entered the spotlight with a quiet but unmistakable statement. She's expecting no press release, no grand announcement, just a soft glow appearance at a private Palm Beach charity event, where eagle-eyed guests couldn't help but notice the subtle shift. The flowing dress, the protective hand placement, the unmistakable aura of someone about to start a new chapter. And just like that, the narrative flipped. The rumors of a crumbling marriage were replaced with congratulations, questions, and of course, curiosity sources. Close to the couple have confirmed the news. Tiffany and Michael Boulos are expecting their first child, and suddenly the idea of a split seems wildly off base, far from quietly backing out of the Trump orbit. Tiffany is building something of her own, a family on her terms. Michael has reportedly been completely hands-on, traveling, less staying close to home, and preparing for fatherhood with the kind of quiet intensity that fits his reputation for a woman who spent most of her life balancing the extremes of fame and privacy. This moment feels like her most grounded, yet no politics, no press conferences, just Tiffany charting her own course, building a new legacy that has nothing to do with real estate or campaign rallies. And as Tiffany Trump breaks silence in the most unexpected, beautiful way, one thing becomes clear: she's not disappearing. She's just evolving an establishment. And how, their views maybe were towards this community, towards gays, lesbians. But guess what? My dad cannot be bought off. He's not going to let anyone change his view.